We make our first visit to the Prospect Reef by reviewing Sam Dickinson and Nate Misskey's recent games.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker of the Reef, also the co-host of Western Conference Tuesdays here on the Locked On NHL channel. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. So today we're going to be diving into the Prospect Reef to look at two of the 2024 San Jose Sharks draft prospects. One, Sam Dickinson and Nate Misskey. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on Dickinson because how important he is to the franchise, being the 11th overall pick in this last draft. Kind of what I've seen from his games, some of the good stuff I've seen, some of the stuff we need to continue to iron out as he continues to grow and develop as a prospect. And then we're going to check in on Nate Misskey. How he's having a quietly great start over for Victoria. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's start with Sam Dickinson. We'll start very positive because Sam Dickinson is on a tear to start the season here in the OHL. So right now, Dickinson in 5 games has 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points. 3 of those goals come courtesy of a performance from Saturday night where he had a hat trick all on the power play as London came back to beat the Barrie Colts. Dickinson's also, and it's not just Dickens like shooting out of his brains right now. He has 35 shots on goal. Dickinson has been very much the engine to the London Knights this season, for better or for worse right now. So something to kind of keep in mind with Dickinson, especially at the very, very, very beginning part of the season when he got back to London, is that London was very short-handed with kind of their top players, right? You look at all these CHL teams at the beginning of the season, they're usually starting the season with some of their top players over in NHL camps. And London is definitely one of those teams, right? You have guys like Easton Cowan, Denver Barkey, like Oliver Bonk. You have a ton of guys. Like they were missing 5-6 guys who were over in NHL camps. That doesn't even include Casper Halton, who's probably not going back to London, but still ton of guys that they were missing. And Sam Dickinson, as an early return guy, was kind of asked to carry the load. So we'll dig into that here a little bit more. But Dickinson, though, right now, you can see whatever they told him to do. It sounds like the number one thing was shoot the puck more. And he's been doing that right now, where he is like every night it's 6, 7, 9 shots on goal types of performances for Sam Dickinson. And he has been playing a lot. We don't get at least like the public stats right now. We don't get time on ice for Sam for these types of players, but I would wager it's easily over 25 minutes a night. Some nights pushing 30 minutes. Because of one, just kind of how London is, but having watched London pretty heavily the past 2 seasons with between Casper Halton and like the players that they have on their team. Like this team is very much we are going to ride our top guys, and they are going to carry us as far as we can go with them. So that's been kind of one of the big things is Sam Dickinson is one of those top guys. You saw last year, he played a ton last year. But right now, especially beginning the season, as guys are now basically everybody's back, right? As all the teams are kind of in full swing, their rosters are set. Maybe Halton comes back, but I don't think so. Just as a side note from my watching of him on the Barracuda, we'll talk about that later, but I don't think Halton is going back to London right now. So Sam Dickinson has really kind of made his mark right now as being one of the top producers on this team. And it really seems like he's been focusing on his offense. Watching him in the playoffs last year, he was very much more defensive oriented, which would make sense. In the playoffs, you make mistakes, right? Where mistakes can be, can turn a game really quickly. In the beginning of the season, he's been very much like, let's just play a bunch of fun offense. And we will talk about some of the decision making here in a little bit, but he's been very offensively focused for London. Like I said, just kind of leading the charge. You've seen the transition game, which I think is something that he's had, but you're seeing it really kind of take a next step right now. Sam Dickinson is an excellent skater. And I think sometimes he knows he's a good skater, sometimes almost to his own detriment, where he maybe tries to do things a little bit too much. Again, trying to be positive in the first segment here, but he's been really kind of pushing and testing what he can do, especially in the transition. And his transition led to the game tying goal on Sunday night or on Saturday night against Barrie when they were on the power play. He gets the puck in his own zone, just goes, weaves through traffic, and just puts off an absolute just snipe in the high slot. Dickinson shot, like you're seeing it again when you're taking this many shots, you're seeing it being very active, and it's not like he's just shooting to just shoot. He's making like they are the right decision to shoot. Like he is getting good shots. It's not like he's just just firing just to fire. He is getting good quality shots as well. So you have to be really impressed with his offensive game and even his defensive game. Like it's been really solid as well. You see a lot of, again, it's the positioning for him, right? Especially a guy of his size. He's always going to have that where kind of to fall back on, where playing in juniors, I'm usually bigger, stronger, faster than most of the other people I'm playing against. And that's kind of like the Quentin Musty issue, right? Is Quentin Musty's bigger, stronger, and faster, but can he, outsmart the guys and have better positioning and stuff? You see that with Dickinson, with his ability to, especially like defending the rush, being in the right position, knowing when to maybe kind of stick poke or maybe, to kind of take the body and be more physical. Like that part of his game, I think is pretty solid. And that part of his game is why I think he's going to be an NHL player, because of his skating, his ability, I think, to play defense. His style of defense is very NHL translatable because of he knows kind of when to do what for the most part. Just take a pin in that, but still. You're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing the push in the transition game. I think that's something that he's really focusing on, is getting the puck from his zone to the offensive zone and trying to be more offensively involved. And I think so far you're really seeing that from him. And watching a few of his London games, like he is very much and it's him and Oliver Bonk. So it's not like he's, with some scrub where he has to do everything. Like Oliver Bonk is also a first round pick from the 2023 draft for Philly. Dickinson's usually kind of the guy, like when both those guys are out there, Dickinson, I think is still kind of taking the majority of the transitions. And he's usually kind of the one breaking out right now. And even on the power play, like Dickinson's the one running the power play. They're a little bit weird where Bonk, they call it bumper Bonk, but he basically sits in the bumper and just crushes one-timers. He's very, very good at it, but it's just a little weird to see a defenseman in that spot. But Whatever works for you right now as you're trying to win games. But Dickinson is the one at the point on the power play, kind of running things, making sure, like, keeping the puck moving, knowing when to shoot, when to pass to what guy. Like, he's the guy kind of running the power play right now. He's, again, also eating up big minutes as the first penalty killer as well for London. So you are seeing a lot of good things. Like, don't get me wrong, especially when we go into this next segment, we talk about some of the stuff he needs to work on. Like, every player has stuff to work on. And it's good to see that he is being aggressive, I think is probably the best word, aggressive in trying to work on some of the stuff that he needs to work on. So we'll talk about some of the areas that we need to see improvement on. And mainly, I think right now he's trying to do too much. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you get to check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Again, until Tua comes back, just keep hammering the under on Dolphins games because that offense stinks without Tua. So you can do all that over at FanDuel.com. All right, before we continue with Sam Dickinson and where we need to see some improvement at, do want to, of course, thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, when you're done checking out this show, go check out one of the other great shows here at the Locked On Network. Of course, you have plenty of stuff going on here in the Bay Area. You've got Locked On Warriors with preseason fully underway now. You got Locked On Niners. Plenty of there's always something going on with the Niners. Locked On A's, Locked On Giants. So go check out one of those podcasts wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. So where does Dickinson need to improve? And I think I kind of touched on it basically, but especially early when they didn't have, and I was willing to kind of like, okay, like you're really shorthanded. You have a lot of, like, you have to a lot on your plate for Sam Dickinson. I think right now he is doing a little bit too much, right? You see this where guys are like, right, they're just pushing a little bit too much. And you're kind of seeing that with Dickinson at times where it's like, I got to do everything because, like, or else nobody's going to do it. That's been Dickinson, I think, early in the season. I feel like once everyone's in and kind of established and they start to play some games and kind of get their chemistry back, I feel like that will scale back. That's the hope, right? Is that it will scale back and you'll find some balance. And I think that's a key word for Dickinson, is finding some balance. But you're seeing, though, when he's pushing too hard, he's making really dumb mistakes. Like, just where I'm trying to outskate 3 guys in my own defensive zone in front of the net, and it's just not doable. Like, I don't care who you are, you're just not able to do that. And I think that's where he knows he's such a great skater, where he gets himself into trouble sometimes, where he's just like, I'm just going to escape my problems, right? And it's cost his team. Like, even in the game against Barrie, he tries to outskate a turnover back of the net, and he's basically just like lying down because he trips and like just, and sometimes, I hate the saying, but sometimes you got to make the simple play like that. You just got to make this, either eat the puck, pass it to a teammate, just something like that. And especially eat the puck. You're 6'3", like, you are bigger than most of the guys on Barrie. Like, it's if you have to eat the puck and hold, like, coaches would rather you do that than just turn it over and stuff. Credit to London, like, they just keep throwing him out there when he makes those mistakes, but that stuff's not going to fly when you get to the AHL, when you get to the NHL. Like, that's something that he needs to work on. And I'm hoping, again, as the season progresses and guys kind of fit kind of figure out their roles and where they kind of slot in. Hopefully we see less of those, him just pushing stuff. And you also have seen like with Dickinson where things snowball. Like he'll make one bad mistake, and I think it kind of even goes back to this before, but he makes one bad mistake, then he feels like I got to make up for it. And then he makes another bad mistake, and he makes and it just kind of like, and it'll be a couple shifts in a row where you're just like, dude, you got to like sit down for a minute and just take a deep breath. So, like, I'm not worried about Dickinson. Like, I still think Dickinson is going to be a great player, and I'd rather him do this stuff here in London, where you can That's the whole point of juniors right now, as our good friend Hattie, the experimentation, right? Experimenting with what can I get away with and what am I like, that's not going to fly. And I'd rather him figure that stuff out now than when he gets to the NHL and he's trying to figure that stuff out of like, that's not going to work, right? And every player is going, like, there's going to be a learning curve and stuff like that. But those issues, I think, are the big things right now, is just trying to do too much. And right, sometimes you do have to keep it simple. You're still seeing some of the issues, especially with the processing when he's pressured, and I think that's what leads to these mistakes here. But one of the things though is you're seeing him, when it works great. When it doesn't. But you're seeing him trying to just just go, like, instead of holding on to the puck too long, and he's not able to make the pass. That's where his skating does come in handy. But I think there's still that fine balance of knowing when to kind of push it and when to go, and then when to just keep it simple. Because when he does push and it goes and it works, it's beautiful. And you saw that on the game tying goal, on the power play, where he got the puck and he was just like, well, they're going to give me all this space, and I'm just going to skate through the zone and find this spot and shoot it. Like, awesome, But it's I have three guys on me. I can't play 3-on-1 hockey. Like, I don't care who you are, like, unless you're Connor McDavid. And even then, like, when it works, it's a beautiful thing. But when it doesn't, it's like, what were you trying to do there? So I think that's got to be the big thing for Dickinson as the season goes on, is finding that balance of when I can maybe try to get away with things, and when I should try, especially with his London team, right? It's not like he's surrounded by a bunch of scrubs. Like, this is a very good London team, who I know they've gotten off to a little bit of a slow start here, but again, they've missed so many players, and everybody's back now. So utilizing the great players that you're around, like, you have a great partner in Oliver Bonk. Easton Cowan's really good. Like, they have a lot of really, really quality players on this team. So utilizing your players to make them better and make yourself better. Because again, it's not like when he gets to the Sharks, he's going to have great players around, hopefully great players around him, and Eklund and Celebrini and Will Smith. And like, utilize the great players you have around you to make them better and make yourself better. So I think that's going to be the learning thing for him. So I think if he can marry what we saw in the playoffs, where he was much calmer, making the right decision, with some of the offensive outbursts that we've seen, like, if you can get those together, then you're going to be cooking with gas. So it's very early. I'm not worried about Dickinson. These are just some of my observations from watching, a few games from Dickinson, and willing to, it's a long season, right? Especially in the OHL. He plays 72 games there. Like, it is a long season. He's got plenty of time. I think London's played like 8 or 10 or something. Like, they played less than 10 games. So he will be just fine. He's going to play a bunch of minutes on one of the best teams in the OHL, and he's going to play, in all situations. That's exactly what you want him to do. So, Dickinson is going to be good. Just find some balance, buddy. That's all. We're going to talk about a guy who's off to a very quiet but very good start in Nate Misskey, and why we might be only watching one season of Misskey with the Victoria Royals. So we'll get to that here in just one second. if you want to go catch a game at the Tank, go see the Niners. You want to go catch Steph Curry and the Warriors at the Chase Center, you need to check out Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. They have a super deal. They have special, just super special prices on seats. Of course, you can see your seats before you buy. Nothing worse than getting to an event and realizing your seats stink. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. And if you want to get in on the action, you need to check out PrizePicks. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. If you sign up today, you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't have to win to receive the $50 bonus. Is guaranteed. So if you think Justin Jefferson goes off this week, maybe when Celebrini returns, you think he's going to continue to do Celebrini things, or Steph Curry, just Steph Curry hitting threes is always fun to root for. So you can pick any of those more or less. And if you win, you can really rake in the money. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, use the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $50 instantly after you play. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, let's finish up by talking about Nate Misskey. So Misskey was a late round pick of the San Jose Sharks. And as a reminder, he was an overager. So could have been actually drafted in the 2023 draft. Wasn't. So he's a year older. And you see just a very mature game. And I think his offense is really starting to kind of blossom now. And you would expect this, right? He's a 19-year-old. He'll be 20 in January. So, spoiler, he can play in the AHL next season. But I really like watching his game because he's very much defensively responsible first. But you're starting to see these little peaks of like, oh, that was a fun off. Like, oh, that there's some offense that I didn't expect to see from him, especially reading his draft profile and everything like that, right? Big boy, defensive guy, et cetera, et cetera. Like you kind of know what he, you kind of have the picture of like what his game was. And it's not that. It's actually, much more diverse than I kind of expected to see out of him. So watching him though, he's really had a great start to his WHL season. Among defensemen right now, he's 12th in scoring. Okay, but he's only played 6 games with Victoria, while some of these other guys have played 9, 10, 12 games in front of him. He has 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points, and 14 shots on goal. Some shooting percentage, maybe a little not sustainable there with 4 goals and 14 shots, but his style of play is very sustainable. He's very much, going to kind of keep it simple there with the occasional like flair. Like you're never going to expect him to be like, you're not going to mistake him for Luca Cagnoni, who can kind of make people look silly, but he just makes the right play. Like 9 out of 10 times he's going to make the right play. He's been playing kind of like running the power play for Victoria, playing a lot of penalty kill, like eating a lot of minutes here for him. And I think this is, again, just another one of those guys to keep an eye on. Maybe like a potential Gannon Larocque 2.0 pre-injuries. So if you remember, if you've listened to Locked on Sharks for any length of or for a long time, you kind of have seen like very much like Galen Rock after his draft year. He like exploded offensively. Maybe that's the year. This is the year for Misskey to just kind of explode offensively. To keep the age in mind, right? As an overager, should be a more mature game, and you are seeing that. But if he continues the way he's playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the Barracuda next year, or at least playing professional hockey. Maybe he has to start in the ECHL. But I have been really, really impressed with what I've seen. You don't have to worry about him anytime he goes over the board. Like, you know exactly what you're getting out of Nate Misskey. He's going to use his physicality, but not overly rely on it. Kind of same thing with Sam Dickinson, right? He knows he's probably bigger than you, but he's not just going to rely on just trying to knock dudes out. He's going to be good positioning, sound positioning. He's also, for Misskey, the dude just like hustles every play. Like, he is very much like a try hard. It sounds mean, but like, you know what I mean? Like, where he's a I'm going to give it 100% every shift type of guy. Like watching him back check, and when he has to back check, like if he's kind of up, maybe pushing position and something, a turnover happens, you see him like back checking and getting back to the right spot like very quickly. Yeah, I'm really impressed with Misskey, excuse me, and what I think the Shark, maybe a hidden gem. Like, I don't know if he's ever going to be like a, probably not like a top 4 guy, but could he be your 7th defenseman or like a really awesome AHL guy? And then if you need him to kind of call up and play some games here and there, like that's a nice find in the 5th round. I think sometimes it feels like if guys, if they're not playing NHL minutes, like big NHL minutes, it feels like a miss. But like finding a guy like that in the 5th round who's going to be a professional and probably have a long career as a professional, that's a win. And I think Nate Misskey is well on his way to being that. I think he's going to play NHL games just because of his size and how he plays the game. But I think he's well on his way to being a really solid player for the San Jose Sharks and San Jose Barracuda. So great start to Misskey. Hopefully he keep the offense going this year, continue to work on that. And I think he's going to find himself to be a really good 2-way player for the Sharks in the future. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow as the Sharks take on the Blackhawks and continuing their road trip. So we'll have a reaction to that. We'll also have on Friday with the Sharks going to Winnipeg. So we'll have episodes Thursday night, Friday night. We got you covered here at Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.